Okay, yeah, thank you very much for a very kind introduction, Arman. So maybe before I start, just a small introduction again about myself. So my name is Denny Hardiansa. So as Arman said, so I did my PhD in Heidelberg University, Germany, where I learned about medical physics. And then after that, I moved to University of Kentucky College of Pharmacy. And in Kentucky, I learned mostly about the population pharmacokinetic modeling. And then for my PhD, I work mostly for the PBPK modeling. So this is just a short overview of my location because we are quite far from each other. So this is Indonesia, yeah. And as you can see, if we zoom in, so it is an island country with many island and ocean. And yeah, this is my location, yeah, in Jakarta, the capital city of Indonesia. And then this is just a small overview of our university, Universitas Indonesia. So I will directly start with the presentation. So again, thank you very much for the opportunity. It is my pleasure to be the speaker of today's meeting. And in this opportunity, I will uh, describe and also present about the physiological based pharmacokinetic and also population pharmacokinetic modeling in molecular radiotherapy. And this is the outline of my presentation. I will start with the general concept, introduction to PBPK modeling, introduction to population PK, implementation of PBPK in molecular radiotherapy, implementation of population PK in molecular radiotherapy, and also implementation of both, yeah, if we combine PBPK modeling and also population PK modeling in MRT. So let's start with the first one, the general concept. As we all already know that radionuclide treatment is expected to be improved by an individualized treatment planning approach. And we can do it by calculating the absorb dose, where we need the administered activity. We also need the time integrated activity coefficient that can be calculated as the integration of the activity over the time divided by the administered activity, and we can multiply it by the S value. And it has been shown by Zverev that an accurate determination of individual TX was shown to possibly decrease the inter-individual variability of the absorbed dose in the population. So it was shown that the value around 90% in the kidney. So this result showed that the TX modeling is very important. So how to get the TX modeling? So this is the general approach that one can do. We can divide it into 4 phases of time activity curve modeling. So as you can see, the red one, number 1, is about the collection of the data required for the fit. We can call this as data input. The second one on the right side, the orange color, is the definition of the model or function used to model the change of organ activity with the time. We can call this as the function input. The number T is the actual processing of the data and the definition of the underlying uncertainty. We can call this as the data processing. And the last one is the selection of the data required for presenting the result of the fit, or we can call this as the data input. So as you can see, we have many part of each of the phase here. And then we will focus on especially number 2 and number 3. So for the function input approach, what we can do? So we can choose different types of approach. The first one is we can perform model independent approach. People also call this as the trapezoidal integration. It means that we just integrate with the trapezoidal method all the time activity data, and this is purely mathematical. So one of the problem is this could lead to under and over predict of the time activity curve, and also extrapolation to infinity is unclear. The second one is the sum of exponential. It is simple and without the need to specify a physiological structure. The third one is the compartmental models, no strict physiological or anatomical basis. we assume a known structure, and last but not least is physiological models, which identify the compartments with actual body space, actual transfer and flow rates are employed. It is more complex, and this can be used for prediction. And one of the publication from my colleague showed that adding the prior knowledge to the tag fitting function input and data processing could enhance the accuracy of the calculated absorbed dose. Then the next question is, we have this different approach, and then we know that if we add prior knowledge, then we can have a better accuracy in our result. But what is the prior knowledge itself? All prior information about the subject of interest and or drug parameter that could be added to the tag fitting process to enhance the accuracy of the absorbed dose calculation. So several information or prior knowledge that we can use from the patient, such as the body weight, the body height, physical decay, and etc. But how do we add this prior knowledge to the data processing of tag fitting? So we can add it to two different part of the tag modeling. The first one is in the model structure or the function input, and in this case, physiologically based pharmacokinetic modeling. We can also add the prior knowledge to the fitting process itself or in the data processing. And then this we could do with the population pharmacokinetic or POP-PK model. So therefore, from this slide, we already know how to improve the accuracy of the calculated absorbed dose by improving the function input and data processing. So let's discuss about this in more details. So this is the population PK approach in general mechanism. So basically, you know that usually if we have the data, right, so we just directly feed it individually. But actually, we share a common information between the same species, in this case, human. So that's why the population approach or fitting all together at the same time could enhance the accuracy of the calculated absorbed dose. So the general structure is, first, we need to define the structural model. And one of the example is the PBPK model. We also need to define the statistical model, and we put it all together in the population model. We also need to prepare the population dataset, and we combine this in the estimation procedure. This is what we call as the population PK in the fitting process. After this, we will have the estimate of the model parameter, inter and also intra-individual variability, and also covariate effects. We will discuss about this further in details in the next slide. And the last part is we can get the exposure safety and also efficacy relationship. So the main purpose, we can assume that the structure and statistical variance model are correct. We can estimate the model parameter as precisely as possible. In this case, parameter that minimize the overall errors. And also, we can define the precision of the parameter estimates. So therefore, both of the structure and statistical model, we need to somehow improve it. So based on one of the publication in Theragnostic in 2022, this is the overview of the main subject of PBPK and also population PK modeling that could contribute to improve radiopharmaceutical research. For example, for population PK modeling, we can use it for population dosimetry, individualized dosing, identification of variability source. For the PBPK model, we can perform compounds comparison, subgroup analysis, and also translation of preclinicals. And both of them can also be used together for dose optimization, scan time optimization, and theranostic research. And then again, let's discuss the PBPK and also population PK modeling in more details. So we start with the introduction to the PBPK modeling. This is the definition of the PBPK model that I got from one of the site in ROSE. A mathematical modeling technique for predicting the absorption, distribution, metabolism, and excretion, or ADME, of a drug or labeled drug in humans and animal species by incorporating physiological information. So basically, we can use all information from the in vitro, for example, information of the compound, physicochemical, and also in vitro data. We can also add all information from the patient, yeah, all physiological parameter. Then we can add it all together to our PBPK model. We can perform simulation, and then we can verify and also learn the in vivo characteristic of the biokinetic of our radiopharmaceuticals. So why we need the PBPK model? Because we have some advantage. So the first one is PBPK model is a framework for integration of in vitro data. We can also perform a priori prediction of PK, the kinetic in tissue, or we can also call this as the effect. Compartment can be estimated. We can also perform extrapolation across species, routes of administration, and also doses. Modeling of subpopulation, for example, obese patient, elderly, and modeling of variability and also uncertainty. So from all of this advantage of PBPK model, we can say that one of the key feature is the prediction. We can predict something outside of the data that we have. So this is very, very beneficial for us, especially working in dosimetry. So let's move on to the next one, introduction to the population PK. Population pharmacokinetic is the study of pharmacokinetics in the population of interest, and data from all individuals are modeled simultaneously. And actually this method is quite old, and this method is just a standard method in pharmaceutical science world for especially the drug development. And it was introduced in the early of 1980s by Sainer, Bell, and colleagues. And right now, POP-PK is an integral component in regulatory application for drug marketing approval, as it summarizes pharmacokinetic data obtained across many phases of drug development. And we can say that the area where POP-PK has made the largest impact is in drug development. So because this population PK is one of the important part of the drug development process, therefore this population PK even granted its own guidance for industry by the Food and Drug Administration or FDA in 1999. So this population PK approach enable comprehensive pharmacokinetic data analysis from diverse study design, including sparse, dense, and mixed dataset. And this is again very beneficial for us because, when we have a very small number of data from each patient, for example, 1, 2, 3, and so on, so it is very difficult to get a very good modeling approach because we have the limitation, yeah, from the fitting itself. As we know that when we fit individually, we always need to obey the rule of the number of data need to be larger than the number of the parameter that we fitted. Therefore, if we perform this population PK, then we can have a share information between the patient. And therefore, it is possible, even though we have sparse data, which is a common condition in nuclear medicine, and we can do it, and we can still have a very good and accurate estimation of the absorbed dose. So therefore, POP-PK is helpful when wishing to identify factors also that affect drug behavior or explain variability in a target population. So let's start with the implementation of the PBPK and also population PK in MRT. In the first two parts, I will explain the implementation without each other. So the first one, only the PBPK model. In MRT, it means that we just perform PBPK with individual fitting. In the next part, I will explain the implementation of population PK, but without the PBPK. And in the last part, I will present both all combined together. So let's start with the implementation of PBPK in MRT. So this is the first example, and to my knowledge, the first such PBPK model in molecular radiotherapy or MRT was published in 2009, yeah, at the JNM journal. And as you can see, this is the paper, and the PBPK model is also known as the digital twin. So let's move on to the second example. So actually, this is my PhD work when I was in Heidelberg, and we could publish this at the European Journal of Nuclear Medicine and Molecular Imaging, and the title was The Rule of Patient-Based Treatment Planning in Peptide Receptor Radionuclide Therapy. First, we defined the PBPK model. We built like something like this. It was so simple actually back then, the PBPK model. Yeah, it was not like the PBPK model we have right now with a more complex explanation of each of the space. So this is the model that we built. We have the central compartment for the blood. We have the spleen compartment, liver compartment, tumor compartment, and also rest of the organ compartment. And we also have the kidney, but I don't show it here because the kidney compartment is more complex, because we also have the reabsorption part of the kidney. But you can check the publication in details if you want to see it. So the input, we use the patient-specific data and also biokinetic data. In this case, we use planar imaging after 111 indium dotatate. So this is for the PRRT, and patient-specific data that we collected, such as the body weight, body height, and etc. And then after that, we process it with the SAM2 software. We fit the unknown parameter that we could not measure from the patient, and the output was physiologically relevant parameter that we estimated from the data from the fitting process. And we also perform in silico clinical trials where we simulate the time activity curve and also time integrated activity coefficient to predict the yttrium dotatate. So this is the result. First of all, MPP is the mathematical phantom of patient, or people also call this as the virtual patient. And as you can see here, the x-axis is the TIAC truth and the y-axis is the TIAC prediction. The TIAC truth is just the TIAC that I calculated from the fitting of all time point data from each of the patient. And then we convert indium dotatate to yttrium dotatate. And the y-axis, you have many color, as you can see. And this color represent different types of MPP. So for MPP1, it means that we just use the mean value of the parameter that we calculated from our population. So this is similar like what we always perform in the clinic. This is similar with the fixed dose approach, right? Because in fixed dose approach, we always assume that all patients having the same kinetic. And as you can see, the prediction is not very good because, it should be around this line, right? This is the line of identity. But because we inject always the same amount and, we always assume the same parameter, of course, we will have the same value of the triac prediction, more or less. And then we add more physiological parameter for MPP2. We can see some fluctuation, but not really helping that much. MPP3, we add the tumor volume. MPP4, the GFR. MPP5, the tumor perfusion. And it's getting better by adding a single time point imaging data from PET. And the result for the kidney become very, very nice. So we also calculated for the tumor, and the result is very similar. We can see that the result from the fixed dose approach, is not very good. But if we increasing the degree of the individualization, we can see that the result is getting better and better, especially for MPP6. So we can say that what we learned from this slide, first, the individualization of TIAC is important. And the second one is dosimetry based on single time point imaging measurement is possible. I published this in 2016, and as far as I know, this is one of the earliest STP study out there. So let's move on to the next example. Radionuclide treatment is expected to be improved by an individualized treatment planning approach. So therefore, an accurate determination of individual time integrated activity coefficient is important and was shown to possibly decrease the inter-individual variability of the absorbed dose in the population, up to 90% for the kidney TIACs. So the meaning is like this. So when we perform the measurement, right? So we can see that we have different delivered absorbed dose, let's say in the kidney, in different patient, right? Even though we try to inject a very similar injection of the activity in all patients, but still we can see the difference in the delivered absorbed dose in different patients. So that's why we would like to know what was the reason, what was the source of the parameter that could lead to this difference. You know, inter-individual variability is just a concept showing the difference between the parameter or the patient. So therefore, we would like to know which parameter that dictate the difference in the biokinetic parameter between the patient. And for this research, we identify this source of the inter-individual variability in our population using a global sensitivity analysis and also PBPK model. So what is the global sensitivity analysis, or the GSA? So this method examines how the variability of the model's output can be attributed to the variabilities of the model's input. So as you can see like this. So you know that when we perform the PBPK fitting, right, from different patient, and of course, if we check the parameter that we collected from different patient, we will get different parameter set, right? So basically, the patient here in our modeling defined as the parameter itself, the biokinetic parameter in our model. So therefore, we can see that the each parameter are different between the parameter from patient number 1 to patient number 2 to patient number 3 and etc. Right? So therefore, we have some kind of the distribution of the parameter. So therefore, this is what we can see here. We have patient number 1, 2, 3, 4, and etc. For parameter number 1, we have the distribution for parameter number 2, etc. until parameter n. But here, as you can see, the type of the distribution can be different as well. Yeah. And after that, we add this to our model. And of course, because the biokinetic parameter between the patient are different, so the output of the absorbed dose in our population would be different as well, right? And therefore, by using this global sensitivity analysis test, we can actually see and check which parameter that really can give the largest effect to the variability of the calculated absorbed dose in our population. So again, this method can identify which physiological parameter in the PBPK model most strongly affect the individual absorbed dose. So this was the aim, to identify the most important physiological parameter that have a large contribution to the variability of TX or the absorbed dose using global sensitivity analysis and a physiologically based pharmacokinetic modeling. And for this study, we use patient population, 13 patients in total with metastatic castration-resistant prostate cancer who underwent pre-therapeutic gallium PSMA, PET-CT, and post-therapeutic planar whole-body scintigraphy after lutetium PSMA INT RLT. And this data actually already published before by my colleague, Kleting, and we fit it again, and then the fitting was included both the data from the PET-CT and also from the planar scintigraphy. So we use the whole body PBPK model for PSMA targeting therapy that has been improved by Kleting in one of his publication. The input of interest, the subject of the GSA analysis are those parameters which has been estimated from the biokinetic data of the patient population. So for example, the receptor density and also the blood flow to tumor and also the kidney. So before we check the result, so let's discuss about how to interpret the output of the GSA. One of the important output of the GSA is the main effect parameter, or we can call this as SI. So the main effect SI of an input parameter I represents the reduction in variance of the model output if the true value of parameter I would be known. And we can calculate it like this. It is just a ratio between the variance of output Y due to the effect of parameter I divided by the total variance of output Y. So you can imagine that this number is just actually the percentage, yeah, the proportion of the importance of certain parameter to the variability of the output. So let's say like this. We have 10 input parameter, let's say, with a log normal distribution, for example. And then we edit all together, all of this distribution of the parameter to our PBPK model. And then, of course, because the input having the variability, then the output also we will have some variability for both the absorbed dose in the kidney and also the absorbed dose in the tumor. And then let's say you already performed the GSA, right? And then after that, you check that the SI, or in this case S1, the main effect of parameter number 1, is very important based on the value that we get from the main effect of S1. In this case, the S1 of parameter number 1 is 0.6 or 60%. So it means that if our model having the xi to be exact, it means that we have the exact value of this parameter in certain patient. Then we will have the reduction of the variability of the output of 60%. So that is the physical meaning of this main effect. So this is the result of our study. First of all, it is very important to note that the inter-individual variability of the population absorbed dose that generated from our simulation study was quite high. For the kidney, it was about 31%, and for the tumor, actually we have 3 different types of tumor, but this is one of them. The range of the distribution of the tumor absorbed dose is about 50 to 60%. So this result on the left side actually show us that the value of the absorbed dose calculated in our population is very different between one to another patient. For the kidney, the difference could be 31%, and for the tumor could be around 50 to 60%. So therefore, again, this show the importance of the calculation of the individual absorbed dose. And on the right side, as you can see, the x-axis is the parameter, the input parameter, and the y-axis is the organ absorbed dose. And the color showing the importance of the parameter to the calculation of the organ absorbed dose variability. And as you can see that for the tumor, the most important one is the receptor in the tumor itself. And for the kidney, the most important one is the flow to the kidney and also the receptor in the kidney. So therefore, using a GSA and a PBPK model, we identified the most important parameter that lead to the broad distribution of the absorbed dose to kidneys and tumor in the population. The most important parameter affecting the uncertainty of the absorbed dose are the perfusion for kidney and the receptor density for tumors. Then how can we implement this in the clinic? 2 strategies could be done to decrease the variability of the absorbed dose in the population. First, we could perform the pre-therapeutical measurement of this important parameter for the individual patient before we fit other parameter. Or we can also fix the unimportant parameter, which has a very small effect to the variability of the input. And by fixing this unimportant parameter in the model, this could lead to a higher ratio of the data to the fitted parameter, which could also lead to a more accurate estimation of the absorbed dose. So this method holds promise to efficiently perform an individualized treatment. So let's move on to the next one, the implementation of population PK in molecular radiotherapy. So first publication is about the population-based model selection for an accurate estimation of time integrated activity using nonlinear mixed effects modeling. The aim of this study was to develop a method based on nonlinear mixed effects modeling and population-based model selection for an accurate determination of time integrated activities. So the technique is demonstrated using the example of kidney dosimetry in lutetium PSMA therapy. So the data that we used for this study was the biokinetic data of lutetium PSMA INT in kidney that were collected from 13 patients with metastatic castration-resistant prostate cancer. These 13 patients underwent lutetium PSMA-INT radioligand therapy and had post-therapeutic planar whole body scintigraphy at 3 different time point. One patient had one additional time point at 66.1 hour post-injection, and 3 other patients had 2 extra points, extra measurement points. So the activity was quantified from the image by drawing the region of interest using the geometric mean of anterior and posterior counts with background correction. So this is the method. The parameter of the SOE function with different parameterization and also number of adjustable parameter were fitted to biokinetic data of lutetium PSMA-INT in kidney using NLME method. So we fit each function one by one. And then after we fit it, the NLME PBMS method use the goodness of fit test and the AKK weight. So we select the SOV function. So the SOV function that passed the goodness of fit test with also the highest AKK weight among all the tested SOE function was selected as the fit function most supported by the data. And the performance and determining the TIAS of the best SOE function obtained from the NLME method was compared to the frequently used SOE function and the best SOE function obtained from individual-based model selection and population-based model selection. So it means that, there is no consensus yet how to actually perform the fitting of the pharmacokinetic data, right? So one sometimes use mono-exponential and the other maybe use bi-exponential. Of course, depend on the availability data that they have, but this could lead to inconsistency of the calculated absorb dose or time integrated activity coefficient. So that's why we introduce this method, objective method, and we would like to compare the result with the function that usually people use. We also compare it with the model selection, but individual wise. It means that we have one patient data and we fit different function, and then we select the best function that could better describe the data of patient number 1, for example. And then for patient number 2, we perform again model selection and so on. So this is actually what people usually perform, for the model selection. But in here, in PBMS, we perform it all fitting all together. For population-based model selection with shared parameter, it means that we perform the fitting all together, but not within the NLME, but just fitting individually, but we set several parameters to be the same and share between the patient. It means that this parameter, we set it to be the same for all patients in our population. So this is the result. Of course, as you can see that the method that we introduce is not completely good for all patients. For example, patient number 1, as you can see, it is, small difference. Patient number 4, number 8, and also 12, not that different with the mono-exponential. But we also need to understand sometimes we can get something like this. Patient number 8, for example, or patient number 10, for example, or patient number 13, for example, that could lead to a very big difference. If we perform it differently. So visual inspection of the graph show that the BBMS and LME modeling is better than the frequently used mono-exponential function, the IBMS and also the SP PBMS. So as you can see, this is the box plot. So we learned that the use of different function and also fitting methods could affect the value of the calculated time integrated activity, both the accuracy and also precision. By the way, we also calculate the precision here, but I don't show it. And PBMS and LME modeling was shown to perform better than the individual-based model selection, PBMS with shared parameter. So that's why from this paper, we can say that the way we fit and the way we choose the function is also an important part in the stage of the calculation of the absorb dose that we really need to think about. So the next one is the STP publication that we published last year, single time point renal dosimetry using nonlinear mixed effects modeling and population-based model selection in lutetium PSMA 617. The aim was to find the best supported mathematical model to describe renal lutetium PSMA 617 biokinetic using nonlinear mixed effects modeling and population-based model selection, and also to determine the accuracy of TIAs calculated using single time point data with NLME modeling and the model best supported by the data from the PBMS. So in our study, we use a large set of 315 SPECT-CT measurement and also a broad range of covered sampling times from 0.7 to 236 hour post-injection. So these are the explanation of the data. So we use the data of 6 gigabecquerel per cycle of lutetium PSMA 617 was administered intravenously to the patient, followed by 5 SPECT-CT measurement at different time point. So this is the method. As you can see, we have two parts here. The first one is the model selection, and the right side is the STP fitting. Before we perform the STP accuracy performance analysis, we need to make sure that the SOE function that we use has a very high quality. So that's why we perform this model selection. We fit various SOE function within the population pharmacokinetic modeling, and we repeat each fitting more than 10,000 times to find the best starting value. And then we perform model selection based on the goodness of fit test and also AICC. And then we get the best supported model. And then from this best supported model, we can calculate from all time point fitting the reference time integrated activity. And then after that, we perform the STP fitting by checking different combination of the time point, and also we check it for every patient. Then we can calculate on the right side the STP time integrated activity and STIA. And after that, we check the performance by calculating the relative deviation and also the root mean square error. So one note that there is no standard yet for defining the reference fit function and method for TIA calculation. However, we believe that one needs to use an objective method for defining the reference. In this case, one of the methods that could be used is the NLME plus the PBMS. Why we promote this? Because first, it is accurate. As I showed in the previous paper, that this method is better than the frequently used function IBMS and also the SPPBMS. The second one is this method is reproducible because it is not a subjective method. It is an objective method. We use statistical method to show us which function that can help us to get a better fit function for our data. And based on our result, all our lutetium PSMA NLME plus BBMS result from different center, Freiburg University, Radboud University, and also Econon, lead to the same base function. Even though, of course, the parameter from these different center are different. Similar, but not completely the same. And also, last but not least, systematic. Why? Because all the function that we define in our set of function, we have different combination of uptake and clearance, which started from a very simple one to a very complex one. So this is the result. As you can see, for the input, we have the kidney biokinetic data set from 63 patients with a total of 315 data points. And we also have the input of the set of suitable fit function. And then after that, we process it with the population-based fit function selection with an LME modeling. We check a goodness of fit and also a KK information criterion. And then we perform single time point dosimetry. And as you can see on the right side, the result that we analyze was better compared to the frequently used STP method by the Hanchide and also Metzen. So we can say that the advantage is accurate, systematic, also reproducible. So we learned from this study that the accuracy of TIA from PBMS and LME modeling is better than the TIA calculated from the frequently used STP method. In this case, Hanchide and also Metzen method. So the next one is one of our new publication, but it's not published yet. Yeah, it just accepted a few days ago. So the motivation was to find the best supported mathematical model to describe the biokinetic of iodine 131 in the thyroid using nonlinear mixed effects modeling and population-based model selection. And we also compare the result, in this case the accuracy of the TIA, calculated using the EINM SOP and the best supported model. The data that we used was the biokinetic of the iodine 131 in the thyroid that were collected from 73 patients from different types of disease, and uptake measurement were performed at a different time point, 5 different time point in this case. So the method is very similar with the previous one, but actually we would like to check whether the EINM SOP guideline function that has been published by the EINM is good enough or not if we perform the population PK, or whether we need to add correction or improve the function or etc. So we systematically define a set of SOE function, and then after that we feed it with the NLME model with the optimization of the intra-individual and also inter-individual variability inside of the log likelihood function. And then we perform the population-based model selection PBMS based on the goodness of fit test. And also we calculated the AKQ weight, and we get the model best supported by the data. So this is the result. As you can see, the individual fit of the EINM SOP look okay, but actually the method that we propose with the population method and also with the new function perform better. So we learn here that the function A4C was identified as the SOE function best supported by the data for describing the kinetic of iodine 131 from the PBMS with the NLME, and the NLME method performed better than in the individual fitting method with the EINM SOP. So this is the last part of my presentation about the implementation of both combination of the PBPK and population PK in MRT. So again, this is the general overview of the STP fitting. As we all know that if we have too many imaging, this could add more burden, yeah, because it is time consuming and also high workload. So that's why by using this STP method, we could have a less time for the symmetry and also the lower workload. However, the disadvantage, of course, we will have lower accuracy and also precision. But we need to check, yeah, whether the accuracy is, still acceptable or not. And then why we perform this STP method with the PBPK? Because with the PBPK, we can explain all the organ together. We can check the accuracy from all the organ in the patient, not only the kidney that I published before. So this is the publication. The aim was to analyze the accuracy of kidney STIA from single time point fitting using physiologically based pharmacokinetic and NME modeling for peptide receptor radionuclide therapy. And this was the PBPK model on the right side, the schematic diagram of the organ structure and also the global structure that we use in our method. The data that we collected was the data from 8 patients with either NETs or meningoma scheduled for 2 to 3 cycle of PRRT using yttrium dotatate, imaging pre-therapeutic planar whole body scintigraphy with a double head gamma camera after intravenous injection of indium dotatate, and we collect the measurement with this planar imaging at 5 different time points. For the biokinetic model, we use the published whole body PBPK model by Clayton et al. So this is the method. So as you can see, it's very similar with the previous one. So we have the PK data on the left side is the all time point fitting within the NLME framework. And then after we fit, we simulate the TAC and we get the reference TIA. And on the right side, we have one time point or single time point. We perform also an LME fitting, simulate TAC, and calculate TIA. So the accuracy of using one time point or single time point of planar measurement to calculate the TIA was assessed by implementing the PBPK plus an LME method. And the relative deviation between the calculated TIA with one planar measurement and the reference TIA were analyzed. And the best time point was identified as the time point with the lowest population mean and SD of the relative deviation of the difference between calculated absorbed dose and reference absorbed dose of tumor and kidney, and also actually all other organ. These are several results from several organ. As you can see on the left side, the fitting was good based on the goodness of fit test according to the Clayton et al. And on the right side, as you can see, the result is pretty good as well at time 0.3 or 4. Yeah. So STP at time 0.4 could lead to the lowest mean and SD of the population AD in most or organ. We have more organ than only this 6 organ, but I added to the supplemental file this publication. So then we can say that in this study, we introduced a simplified calculation of TIA using a PBPK model, an LME model, and one planar measurement. And our results suggest that a single time point measurement might be used to calculate TIAs in the organ at risk and tumor during PRRT. And these are the overall conclusion of my presentation today. First, the inclusion of prior knowledge in the molecular radiotherapy could improve the accuracy of the absorbed dose. In this case, for example, population-based pharmacokinetic modeling and PBPK model or digital twin. The second one is the application of POP-PK in the dosimetry of targeted radionuclide therapy show great promise, offering the potential for more personalized and also accurate treatments. And numerous studies have validated the utility of POP-PK and PBPK model in molecular radiotherapy, highlighting its strengths in, but not limited to, accuracy, simplified dosimetry, and in silico clinical trials. And I would like to acknowledge the DAD with the results of the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, BMG, PUTIQ1 grants from Universitas Indonesia, and also our collaborators at Ulm University, Germany, Freiburg University, Germany, Würzburg University, Germany, and also Radboud University, the Netherlands. I think that's all from me. Thank you very much for your attention. Yeah.